What's going on, guys? I'm Tommy and I'm coming at you with an action figure review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Hasbro The Vintage Collection Imperial Remnant Stormtrooper 4-pack. With The Mandalorian and Grogu coming up in just a couple months, I was really surprised, and honestly a pleasant surprise at that, to see that we weren't just getting an Imperial Remnant Stormtrooper from the movie in the Vintage Collection, we're getting an Army Builder 4-pack. That's awesome, and especially these being a new variant or style of trooper for the movie, I'm really happy that you can just very quickly army build these in the Vintage Collection line. I picked this set up on a pre-order through Hasbro Pulse. It actually shipped way earlier, I think almost like a month earlier than it was supposed to, which that's a little annoying when you're looking at a set that's almost $70, but I will say it's still fun to get stuff early as a collector. This set here was a Hasbro Pulse exclusive here in 2026, and it does feature the standard style of packaging for these Army Builder 4-packs. You'll notice this is a plastic-free style of packaging as opposed to the window card backs. Taking a look at the front of the box here, you can see we have a nice mural of approximately 9 different Imperial Remnant Stormtroopers here. You can see some of them featuring some of the unique details that the troopers that come in the pack will have. I will say, obviously, this set only includes 4 troopers, and it does not include 9 of them. Below that there, we have our Star Wars logo, as well as the Imperial Remnant Stormtrooper name there. You can also see some of our logos in legalese. On this side of the box, we have our legalese. Guys, please don't feed these action figures to your babies. On this side of the box, we have a little vertical here for the Vintage Collection logo, as well as a little mural image for our Imperial Remnant Stormtroopers. On this side of the box, we have more legalese like that. We have even more legalese with the barcode on the bottom. And then on the back of the box here, you can see we have 4 of the Stormtroopers. This is much more accurate to the 4 that we're going to get in this pack here, as well as, again, some more legalese at the bottom. But with that, the packaging quickly covered, we will take a look at these figures and get them unboxed. Once we cut the tape and open up the lid of the box, you'll see that all 4 figures are individually wrapped in wax paper with all the warnings on the card here. You think they have enough warnings with a set like this? Separately from the figures, you can also see we have some more wax paper with all the blasters inside. Alright guys, here are our Stormtroopers out of the box. Before we take a look at the figures, of course, let's take a look at their accessories that they come with. Usually these troop builder packs, as part of the customization for them, include extra blasters, so you get more than just 1 blaster per figure. That's really nice for a pack like this. One obviously being the E11 blaster. You do get 4 of these standard issue Imperial blasters in this set. You can see that these are just done on a standard black plastic sculpt, just basic sculpted detail here, no paint or weathering to these whatsoever, but for the scale and for what they are, this is totally fine for me, as it is an accurate representation of this weapon. Another inclusion, and this is one I'm really excited about, we get the heavy blaster, the DLT-19, I believe it's called. This is a really nice blaster to have, and I love that you get just a little bit more customization with the troopers here, just giving them different blasters. So technically, if you bought multiples of these, you could have them be different troopers and have them be a little bit more diversified by what weapon they're carrying. So I really like that they included this. Again, just black plastic here, no paint or weathering detail here, but I'm really happy they included this one. And if I didn't already mention, you get 2 of these in addition to the 4 E11 blasters. Alright guys, let's take a look at our troopers here. So you'll notice that each of our 4 troopers is a little bit unique, and that's honestly really nice for army building purposes. Now before I get into these figures, I should also mention almost all of these are complete reuse of the most recent A New Hope Stormtrooper sculpt that they did, so there's no new tooling or new articulation on these guys, other than the left bicep and the left lower leg on the second Stormtrooper here. As for the troopers themselves, we get 1 standard Stormtrooper here. You can see he is just done in the standard Stormtrooper getup. We have 1 with the lower left leg and the left bicep, which are different both in color and in sculpt than what you usually get with your Stormtroopers. This one on the left here has a little ammo pouch that is slung around his shoulder, kind of cross-drawn. And then we also have our last trooper here, who is kind of the commander, I would call him, because he comes with that Sand Trooper style pauldron. We'll start off with just the regular trooper here. One blanket statement I want to make about all of these guys is how good the weathering is. Much like the Black Series Imperial Remnant Stormtroopers for this movie, they have given all of these figures a really nice wash, and as you can see, as I bring the figure up close, you can see that wash is very evenly applied all throughout the figure. It's got a great dirtiness to it, and it's very natural looking. I will say, I really hope that both lines for Hasbro return to this predominantly when it comes to the weathering style, because you can see it just adds a lot of color and depth depth to the armor, it brings out a lot of the awesome sculpted detail that Hasbro has come to be known for. So I really hope to see more of this in the future, and I'm very happy with the weathering across all 4 figures. Now, usually when I do action figure multi-pack reviews, I show off all of the figures both in looks and articulation individually. Because these are almost entirely the same sculpt 4 times over, I find it a little redundant to show you anything other than the unique pieces of each trooper. So we'll start things off here just showing off our basic Stormtrooper here. You can see that in addition to the weathering, they did some really nice paint apps here on the helmet. You've got that black brow, very shiny, goes across the visors there. You can see these gray details here over the ear caps, as well as above and below the visor. That's really nice. You can also see they painted these blue tick marks. It looks to be in a very deep blue, and you can also see they did the visors in just a very subtle green tint. At first glance and from a little bit away, they could look black, but once you get up to them a little closer, you can tell there's a little tint of green in there. That's really cool. Then at the frown here, we have some black and some gray, and the same could be said for the chin filters here. We've got some black, some gray, and even some silver at these chin filters. On the back of the helmet as well, you can see they also did a good job of getting those accurate paint details for those gray parts on the back of the helmet. So overall, I will say my general statement on this Stormtrooper sculpt for the Vintage Collection is that it's done very well. Now, the carapace is one solid piece as the torso, no kind of overlay system there, and you'll notice that with the shoulder armor here, they haven't gone with the O-ring system. That's a little bit of a newer thing that Vintage Collection is doing, so it's all sculpted into one piece here. So we'll talk about how that affects the articulation a little later on, but you can see a lot of just your basic Stormtrooper armor details. They did go ahead as well and paint the little separator here, and they even sculpted it in for the ribbed undersuit that the Stormtroopers have. That's a great touch of detail there. And on pieces like the back detail on the back of the carapace, I just love how that wash weathering sits into the grooves and crevices of the sculpt, really bringing out that depth of detail. The forearms are just your standard Stormtrooper forearms here. You can see a little bit of paint bleed on the base of the right gauntlet here from the black paint they applied to the undersuit there. And then you can also see that the hand armor is painted on in almost like a bone color. These guys have a much more of a, bone color than the stark white of the original trilogy Stormtroopers. And you can also see that in his right hand, all these guys are going to have a trigger finger sculpted, and on the left hand here, it's going to be more of like a faux trigger finger. At the abdomen here, you can see that we have some nice weathering detail, as well as some gray and some very dark blue paint applications for the buttons there, right to where it meets up with the belt. Now, one thing that's interesting about this Stormtrooper sculpt, and I'm not sure how I feel about it, is the rubbery feeling thin overlay for the cod piece here. It's not a huge deal. It is all one piece. You can see it meets and it is painted between the legs there, but it is just a little bit of a weird texture. It's not something that I'm used to. That said, though, it being that rubbery plastic, it's going to be very flexible. So these little cartridges on the front, as you can see, those flex right out of the way. So when we're articulating the figure, we shouldn't run into any issues. Then down here at the legs, we have just, again, basic Stormtrooper armor detail with really nice weathering. It's really caked on there, and it's done very well. You can see that there are parts where it's not hit as much, but in the grooves and the deeper parts of the sculpt, it is definitely present, and it's very nice. And as you can see, they stayed true to the asymmetry of the way the leg armor goes on the Stormtroopers, and then the weathering even goes down to the boots here. You can see they did paint in the black for the soles of the boots, and overall, this is just a great looking Stormtrooper, especially a 3 3/4 scale Stormtrooper. I think I might go as far as to say the weathering is more consistent and better on these Vintage Collection Stormtroopers than they did on the Black Series ones. We'll set our standard Stormtrooper off to the side here, and next we'll take a look at one that's almost the same, but features probably the most new tooling out of this entire set. So you'll see side by side, these troopers are identical, except for the left bicep and the left lower leg. So we've got the left bicep here, which is painted on in a dark brown, and it has some unique sculpted detail here with this little circular piece that protrudes from the outside of the bicep. You can see that is painted all the way around there. In addition to that, we have a different sculpt entirely for the lower leg. So you'll see this lower leg reminds me a lot more of what we see on like a shore trooper than what we see on the Imperial Stormtrooper look here. This surprised me a little bit. It's much more of a caramel color than the dark brown of the bicep there, and that's different from how the Black Series did this. I think I prefer the darker brown color for this lower leg. But you can see it's still got really nice sculpted detail there, and you can see that the little cartridges go all the way around to the back, and I like that they give you just all the variants all at once with a set like this, so that you can have that sense of army building. Even if you're like me and you're only going to get one pack, you still have that sense of army building. Next up, we'll take a look at this Stormtrooper who has this extra ammo pouch here. So again, I'll bring over the first one we took a look at. These guys are identical in the way that the wash is applied and the way that the sculpt is done. However, this guy has this extra overlay. You'll see that it's on there loosely, so you could probably remove this. We'd probably have to pop the head off the trooper here, but you can see that the strap is completely loose. It's not glued anywhere, and it's got some basic sculpted detail, very similar to what we see with a lot of older Imperial pauldron looks, like again with the Sand Trooper, like I mentioned earlier. And you could probably combine this pauldron here with this ammo pouch here, and that combined together could give you yet another unique look. And I will say again, the strap here done very nicely. The sculpting on this is nice, and it doesn't look too clunky for the figure. It doesn't look like it's going to hinder articulation at all. And then finally, we have, I'll call him, you know, the lieutenant or the commander of the unit with this black pauldron. This may not be 100% screen accurate to the shape and size of the pauldrons that the Sand Troopers wear, like I said earlier in the review, but I think it is similar enough. It definitely looks like an Imperial pauldron. This is just done in black plastic, no painted detail whatsoever. You can see that there is a little strap that is sculpted to fit underneath the arm here, and similarly to how I said about the ammo pouch, I bet if you removed the head on this figure, you could probably just pull this off, and oh, there we go, I pulled the head off the figure, and there we go, we could pull that off, and that'll give us, again, just a standard Stormtrooper. And kudos to Hasbro for weathering the armor underneath. So I guess we could probably play around with this a little bit, huh? If it was that easy to pop the heads off on these guys, we could probably get this off as well. And just like that, by buying this set, you could have 3 of your 4 Stormtroopers be completely unique. I thought I was going to have to heat these figures up and pop the heads off, but they made it very easy to pop the heads off and replace them. That's something I'm very happy about. And then, of course, just to show it off here, I definitely want to see if you could achieve the pauldron and ammo pouch combo, because with the Black Series figure, that is something that you can do. So we'll just slide that on, slide the pauldron on, and I will say it is very easy to do. And look at that, we can get the helmet back on the figure, and we have a figure that is wearing both the pauldron and the ammo pouch at the same time. It looks very natural, looks exactly how the Black Series figure looks, and that's yet another customization option for this set. So at that point, I would say it is absolutely worth, if you really want to army build these guys, getting more than one of these sets. You can get so many different unique looks for these guys between the different blasters and the different armor pieces here. I think this is a home run for an army builder set in the way of looks and appearance go. So I definitely want to cover articulation, so we'll go back to our first Stormtrooper here, just the plain basic one. And like I said, I won't bother showing off all the articulation other than with the unique sculpting and with some of these accessories attached to the figure. But this is a newer vintage collection figure. It is a little dated in some areas, but in general, it's still considered a newer figure. So he's going to have a lot of the newer articulation schemes for these figures. Now, you'll see at the neck, we have that dumbbell joint, which was exposed when we removed the head. One of the ball joints goes into the top of the neck. The other one goes into the head. You'll see you can get some decent range out of that. Our Stormtrooper can look down a decent amount. You can see he can also look up a decent amount as well. You can get some really nice tilt out of this, as well as some good right and left. You'll see at the shoulders here, the way that the shoulder is sculpted makes it so that when you lift the shoulder up, it goes underneath the torso. But I will say, even though that does look a little weird, it doesn't affect the range of motion. You can still get that hinge right up to 90 degrees, and you can also get that swivel a full 360 degrees. We do have a hinge and swivel at the elbows as well, so you'll see that that hinge gets you to about the 90-degree mark, and there is a swivel at the top of the elbow as well. And then we have at the wrists a hinge and swivel once again. So at the right wrist, we have the swivel with a vertical hinge, which is great for the trigger finger hand. And then at the left wrist, of course, we have a horizontal hinge. At the torso, we have a ball joint that goes about midway down the torso. You can see you can get plenty of added range out of that. And then we have an interesting, and this is probably the most dated part of this figure as far as articulation goes, the way the hips are put together. So The hips are done on a hinge and swivel system, definitely in my opinion inferior in function to the way that the modern ball joints work. However, I will say it isn't horrible. It's still definitely better than swivel hips. They can just be a little finicky. You'll see that you can actually change how you bring the leg around by spinning this hinge that's in this black piece of plastic here. So if you have it facing out, you can make them do the splits all the way, which is great range. But if you spin it just a little bit here, you can actually bring those legs forward. And you can see that if you want to get even more range, you can use the thigh swivel that's built in and bring it up even more so that the armor plating isn't cutting into the bottom of the torso there. So it is a decent system. It works fine, but it just is a little finicky and complex just in comparison to the basic ball joint that we have now. As for the knees, we have a hinge and swivel. So you can have about 90 degrees at the bend there, maybe just a little less of that. And then you also have the swivel at the top of the knee. Then at the ankles, of course, the Hasbro Classic, the forward-facing pin for rocker, and our hinge, which is going to get you the forward and a really nice range there, and the back has nice range too. So overall, this is a really good articulation scheme for the figure. Obviously, my personal preference, I would prefer they update these hip joints to how they do them with most of their newer figures, and I would prefer they switch the shoulder armor to an O-ring system. That's been working really well for them on a lot of newer figures too, and I think that with those couple updates, you would get these guys perfect in my opinion. Aside from that though, definitely still great figures for the Vintage Collection line, because while I do have my subjective opinions on the articulation, they can still function exactly the same as any modern Vintage Collection figure. Now, just because I said I was going to show it off here, you'll see that the way that the bicep works here doesn't change the range of motion you get at the elbow for the one with the brown, and then you can also see the swivel works just the same. Same can be said about the lower leg here. You can see you can get exactly the same amount of range here. It's 90 degrees, maybe just a smidge less than that, and you also get that swivel there too. And you can see at the ankles, you still get that forward-facing pin for rocker with good forward and back on the hinge. So even though we have some new tooling on this particular trooper, it doesn't change the articulation range at all. That's definitely a good thing when it comes to these guys. Now, as for our last trooper here, I left the pauldron and the ammo pouch together just to show you that you can still get decent range out of the neck there. You can still look down a fair amount. Looking up can be just a little more difficult, be a little bit restrictive, but you can get some good tilt and left to right on that figure as well. When it comes to just the ammo pouch here, you'll see that that doesn't hinder the articulation one bit. That sits a lot better. You can see you can look down a good amount. You can look up just the same as our other trooper. Good tilt and right and left. And then putting the pauldron on our Stormtrooper here for the last option, you do have, again, good range. I will say the range will be a little bit more limited just because of how large the pauldron is, but that's more of a design thing than it is a function thing. This is accurate to what we're going to see in the movie, so I can only knock it so much there. But overall, the looks and articulation on all of these guys and all their different versions is really good. Now let's get these guys kitted out with their weapons here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this guy with the brown leg, the E11 here. You'll see that this fits really nicely into the hand. The trigger finger sits nicely in the trigger guard, and it does pass the shake test. And then I think I'm going to give one of our heavy blasters to our standard Stormtrooper here, just to make him just a little bit different, a little unique. You'll see once again, getting the hand into the grip of the blaster works just fine, and it does also pass the shake test. And just like that, here are all four troopers in a variety of poses using the different blasters here. The articulation on these guys is great. You can see, especially with the one front and center here, these guys have a great center of gravity. It's very easy to get these guys into one-legged running and moving poses. With the E11, it's very easy to bring the blaster up to the eye so the trooper can actually look down the sights of it. You can see kneeling poses are very easy to do as well. And you can see that while I'm able to get the DLT-19, especially with this trooper on the right, in a two-handed blaster holding pose, it's really difficult to get him to hold the blaster in two hands and shoulder that blaster. And I will say this blaster works much better down by the hip, although with a heavy blaster like this, they're much more likely to fire it down by the hip. And just to show it off here, on the right, we have just our base Remnant Stormtrooper here, and then on the left, we have the most recent single-carded release for the original trilogy trooper. You'll see the original trilogy style trooper has a little bit of a different look to the ammo pouches on the front of the belt, as well as the holster for the E11 that the new troopers lack. Other than that though, they are the exact same sculpt on the figures here, and aside from the wash, you can see they are pretty much identical. But with that guys, that's going to wrap it up for this review. This is a very impressive army builder set for this new movie. I'm very happy that Hasbro is making it very easy for Vintage Collection collectors to army build these guys. I love that they had the foresight to make the helmets so easily removable to make those different customizations customization options for those extra pieces with the pauldron and the ammo pouch. In addition to that, you could choose to remove them entirely, and it really ups the number of unique troopers you can get in this lineup. Even for the trooper with the brown leg and the brown arm, which I was originally going to say was going to be a bit of a drawback to the customization on this, you could give that trooper the pauldron, the ammo pouch, or both, and that would be another unique trooper for this lineup. I think this is a great set, definitely something that I'm very happy with having in the collection. But with that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did and you're not yet subscribed, subscribe to Blitz Transmissions. I've got awesome Star Wars content coming out all the time. If you're an ARC trooper in my Patreon, you would have seen this review early. If you'd like access to early content, monthly giveaways, and other awesome benefits, the link to my Patreon is in the description below. Become an ARC trooper for just $4.99 a month. If you're a fan of the reviews I do here on YouTube, or you want to support the YouTube channel more directly, you could also check out my YouTube channel membership, Rancor Battalion. For just 99 cents a month, it gives you access to exclusive badges, priority replies in my comment section, you get to check out all my reviews early here on YouTube, and you get to vote on what I review next for the channel, just like the Patreon members do. If you'd like some Blitz Transmissions swag, you could always head over to the Blitz Transmissions Armory over on Printify. Link to that is in the description below, as well as links to my Discord and all my social media. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. I'll catch you for the next one, and may the Force be with you.
Breaking off. All units, fire at will. Squad 2, pick your targets. Too many, Captain. Watch your stabilizer, Gold 6. Anybody, cover me. I got 2 vultures on my tail. You've got to hold them here. Watch your left. I can't shake them. I'm hit. I'm hit. Where's our reinforcements?